Good evening to all. Welcome to this 30-second lecture session of the course Heat Transfer. Today we will be talking about very important fundamental mode of heat transfer, which is called as radiative heat transfer. Okay, so already while introducing the concept of heat transfer, it has been discussed in the introductory lectures that there are three fundamental modes of heat transfer: conduction, convection, and radiation. Now we have had enough discussion on conduction and convection modes of heat transfer. Today we will discuss some of the fundamentals of radiative heat transfer. So radiative heat transfer, you will be finding that when we are having some low temperature applications, under that scenario, the amount of radiative heat transfer may be small in comparison to conduction and convection heat transfer. So because of that, for majority of the problems, we may not talk about radiative heat transfer. However, it will be always existing. Okay, and moreover, whenever we are having high temperature systems, then its magnitude will be very high in comparison to the other modes of heat transfer, and its importance becomes significant. Okay, so let me start with a very fundamental concept of radiative heat transfer. So over here, what I have done, we have some solid body, and this solid body is actually enclosed within some surrounding. Okay, so now the fundamental concept of radiative heat transfer says that if we have any system having temperature greater than the absolute zero temperature. Okay, so absolute zero is something which is nothing but our 0 Kelvin. So if we have any system or any quantity of matter having temperature greater than the absolute zero temperature, it will be emitting some amount of heat by the mode of radiation heat transfer. So it means anything which is present in our universe emits some sort of radiations. For example, if you are sitting inside a room, so in your room you have uh, say chair, you have table, you have some fan, lights, etc. So all these objects are nothing but having temperature greater than the absolute zero temperature. So that's why all these objects are emitting some energy in the form of radiative heat transfer. Okay, but still what we will be having, for example, you can see over here we have this surface. So this surface is emitting some radiation. So this arrow over here shows the surface radiation emissions from this solid object. Now what we have done, we have considered that this surface is placed in absolute vacuum. So we don't have any material over here or any medium over here. So if we don't have any medium, we can clearly say that we will not be having conduction and convection mode of heat transfer in between this solid and the surroundings, because these requires some sort of material medium for transfer of heat or transfer of energy. However, radiative mode of heat transfer does not require any material medium. Okay, so if there is medium, then also it will be happening. If there is no medium, in that case also radiative heat transfer will happen. Now, as I told that if we have temperature above than absolute zero, so every object will emit radiation. So we are considering our surrounding at temperature of T surroundings, TSUR. Now this is also greater than 0 Kelvin. So that's why surroundings will also emit some sort of radiations, and these radiations will fall on this solid object. Okay, so now you can see that system which is under consideration, the solid object is also emitting the radiation, and surrounding is also transferring some radiations, and these radiations are falling on the solid object. Okay, so now question comes that if both the system and surrounding are radiating heat energy, then in which direction we will be having net amount of heat transfer. Okay, so the answer to this question is that if we assume that our system temperature or solid temperature is greater in comparison to temperature of surroundings, so though we have some radiations emitted from this surface, say the radiations emitted at the rate of 10 watt. Okay, now similarly this surrounding is also emitting some radiations, obviously, because the temperature of the surroundings is less in comparison to temperature of the solid surface. So that's why the radiations emitted by surroundings will be less. So say I have this as nothing but my 3 watt. So I can say that 10 watt is emitted. However, 3 watt is actually radiations has come from the surroundings. So altogether I can say net amount of radiation heat transfer as 7 watt, which has actually taken place from this solid to the surrounding medium. Okay, so we can say that all the objects having temperature above than absolute zero are emitting radiations, but net amount of radiative heat transfer will depend upon temperature, and the object having higher temperature in comparison to its surroundings will actually emit net amount of radiation heat transfer out of it. Okay, so now if we talk about the fundamental transfer of heat because of radiation, if we talk about the fundamental mechanism, so we know that there are basically two theories. So first theory says that there are some particles and these particles carries energy. Okay, so fundamental mechanism says that we have some particles and these particles carries carry energy, and these particles are having nothing but wave like nature. Okay, so these are having wave like nature. And another theory says that the thermal radiation or radiative heat transfer takes place in the form of electromagnetic waves. So both the theories says that we have nothing but wave like nature. So first theory, as per the first theory, we have some particles. These particles carries energy and these behaves or shows nothing but wave like nature. And another theory says that transfer of energy takes place in the form of electromagnetic waves. So from this fundamental mechanism, we can simply say that irrespective of the theory, we will always be having some wave like nature for transfer of energy. So if we have wave like nature for the transfer of energy, it means we will be having some wavelength. Okay, so wavelength associated, which is given by a symbol lambda, and we will be having some frequency of the wave, say, which is given by a symbol nu. So this wavelength and frequency of these wave like transfer of energy carriers will be actually responsible for amount of heat transfer. Okay, so the relation between these two quantities can be given in the form of lambda equal to c by nu, where c is nothing but considered as the speed of light. So if we have absolute vacuum, under that scenario, its value will be equal to 2.998 into 10 to power 8 meter per second. And if we have any medium, say gaseous medium or any liquid medium, under that condition, we have to consider speed of light in that particular medium. Okay, so till this point, is there any confusion or any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, so let us move to the next slide. Now we have one very interesting discussion about the radiative heat transfer. Okay, so on the left hand side, we have some high temperature gas or say some semi-transparent medium. So we can see that each and every part of the medium is actually emitting some sort of radiations in all the directions. So that's why you can see that these circles, and in this circle in all the directions I have marked this number of arrows. So this number of arrows shows that radiations are emitted from these particular locations in all the directions. Okay, so I can say that if inside my room I have some gaseous phase, so each and every molecule of that gas will be emitting some radiations in all the directions. Okay, so these radiations now will move out of this medium, and say outside I have some surface, these will be then interacting with the surface depending upon their direction. Okay, so this shows that radiation is nothing but a volumetric phenomenon. It means each and every matter or each and every particle or molecule within our medium is actually emitting the radiations. Okay, now this is something which is true for gaseous and semi-transparent medium. Now in case of solids or liquids also this is true. I'm not saying that this will not happen. In case of solids or liquids also, we will be finding that the molecules or internal particles of matter will be transferring radiations in all the directions. Okay, however, what will happen, say this matter and these matter, while these will be exchanging the heat within all the internal substances, because these are not transparent, solids or liquids are opaque. So under these conditions, this heat or this radiation, whatever has emitted, this will be interacting with this another molecule, okay, or another quantity of matter. So under that scenario, what will happen, all the radiations which are actually being transmitted within the bulk of the matter, these will be actually balancing each other. So if these are balancing each other, so these are of no use for our consideration, because whatever exchange of heat is happening within the medium, that exchange of heat is actually itself, it is creating some sort of equilibrium within the matter. Okay, but what we will be finding, that if we are having this surface, so from the surface, whatever radiations are actually moving out into the another medium. So here we have some another gaseous medium or vacuum. So that will be actually responsible for interaction with some outside surface. Say if I have some surface over here. So basically these are the radiations which are coming out of the surface. These will be responsible for exchange of heat between this solid or liquid which we have considered and some outside surface. So that's why we can consider that for our opaque solids and liquids, we will be having radiation as nothing but a surface phenomenon. So mainly we consider that molecules or quantity of matter up to a depth of 1 micrometer. So whatever quantity of matter we have up to a depth of 1 micrometer, whatever the radiations emitted by that, these are considered as actually surface radiations, and these are responsible for exchange of heat or energy by the mode of radiative heat transfer with the surrounding surfaces. Okay, so in this particular course, because the exchange of radiations within the gaseous medium, or I can say volumetric exchange, is having actually very small amount in comparison to the exchange which will be happening because of the surface exchange, okay, in between the two surfaces. So that's why in this particular course, considering the complex nature of the radiative heat transfer, we will be keeping our discussion limited to only the surface radiative heat transfer. Okay, so is this point clear, or any confusion till this point? Is it okay, or do I need to explain anything again?
No, sir. Like surface radiation is only because of 1 micrometer.
Yes, up to
Yeah.
the depth of 1 micrometer, whatever radiations are emitting, these are considered as the surface radiations.
Surface. Okay.
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 Okay, now comes a very important concept. As I told you that fundamentally we consider that mechanism of exchange of energy is because of or in the form of electromagnetic radiation. So let us discuss about the spectrum of electromagnetic radiation. So spectrum of electromagnetic radiations is very wide, and it is having different types of waves or radiations over here. Now, the radiations which are towards very low wavelength side, these are actually high energy radiations, and these are mainly of interest to high energy physicists. And if we consider the larger wavelength, so over here, these microwaves, these are of interest to electrical and electronics people. Okay, so now there is some spectrum in the range of zero point 0.1 micrometer to 100 micrometer, within which actually whatever radiations or electromagnetic waves emits from surface or are incidented on surface, these causes actually changes in temperature of the surface. So if these are incident on surface and if these are emitting from the surface, first thing is that these are actually caused due to the temperature effects, and moreover, if these are incident on some surface, these will lead to change in temperature of the surface, means which affects the temperature. So this particular spectrum is called as nothing but our thermal radiations. And within our thermal radiation, we are having the complete regime of infrared rays and a portion of ultraviolet rays and entire spectrum of the visible rays. Okay, so all these waves within the range of 0.1 to 0.1 to 100 micrometer is something which is actually called as thermal radiations. Okay, now there is one very important point which shows that the radiations is actually very complex phenomenon, and the reason of the complexity is dependence of spectral and directional distributions. Okay, so the meaning of spectral distribution is that, say if from a surface one radiation is leaving with some wavelength lambda 1 and another radiation is emitting with wavelength lambda 2, say third radiation is emitting with wavelength lambda 3. So each of this radiation will carry different amount of energy. Okay, so the energy carried by individual wavelengths will be actually different. So because of this, we call that energy spectrum as nothing but spectral energy. So spectral energy is something, the energy which is associated with some individual wavelength. So you can see over here, we are having this wavelength along abscissa, and here we are having this monochromatic radiation emission, means corresponding to a single wavelength if radiation is actually emitting. So you will be finding when we have this low wavelength, then this is the energy value over here. For high wavelength also this is the energy, and we have certain value of wavelength at which actually energy carried by the emitting radiation is actually highest. So it means that the amount of energy which is going out of a surface, that is something which is a strong function of the wavelength of the emitted radiations. Okay, so it means that amount of energy leaving is actually different for different wavelengths. So this shows that there is some spectral distribution of energy carried by the radiating waves. Apart from that, as I told you that majorly we will be considering radiations as nothing but a surface phenomenon. Okay, so we will be finding that radiations from a surface will be emitting. Now if the magnitude of radiations emitted in all the directions is same, that will make our phenomenon easy. Okay, easy to analyze or easy to understand, but this is not the case. Okay, so when we are having the radiations which are emitting from a surface, we may find that in some particular direction we will be having, say, high magnitude carrying energy waves, and in some direction we may have the energy distribution as, or the magnitude of energy which is carried by the waves as less. So it means we are not having some uniform spectrum of energy in coming out in different directions, whereas we may have some specific direction where energy emitting is more, and in some direction amount of energy emitting is less. So it means the radiations coming out of a surface is having dependence on wavelength as well as on the direction. So due to these two different dependencies, our phenomenon of radiative heat transfer is actually very complex to analyze. Okay, but how we will be taking certain simplifications in order to have theoretical basis for studying the radiative heat transfer, that I will be discussing in the subsequent slides. So is there any confusion till this point?
Sir, what is the range of wavelength here?
Okay, so this is nothing but a simple representation, but the range of wavelength in majority of the cases will be within 0.1 micrometers to 100 micrometer, because we are only considering thermal radiation spectrum in this particular consideration. Okay.
Okay. And sir, in the second figure,
Yes.
it is like maximum radiation will be at 90 degree. Is it always the case?
So
or
that is not always true, but this particular representation over here shows like this, but this is just a schematic representation.
okay.
Okay, so now to analyze the phenomenon of radiative heat transfer, we have to actually have knowledge of some basic mathematical quantities. So let us revise these concepts and discuss some of the fundamental definitions. So first thing is differential plane angle. So basically this term or this representation over here shows a plane angle. So what we are considering? We are considering a two-dimensional case, and here we are considering, say, we have some circle of radius r. Okay, so now in this circle of radius r, if we consider that here we have, say, source from where radiations are emitting, and we are considering that this is the, say, one extreme ray and this is another extreme ray. So now the angle subtended by these two extreme rays, okay, on the periphery of some circle, which is actually acting as an observer or as an, say, destination for these radiations. So this particular angle d alpha over here is something which is called as differential plane angle. Now if we consider that the arc length of this arc is dl and r is radius, so I can say this differential plane angle will be nearly equal to dl by r. Now similarly, if I consider a three-dimensional situation, in place of a circle, if I consider over here some sphere, so sphere will be having actually three-dimensional behavior. And if we consider that from this source rays are coming in, say, three-dimensional nature, which will be actually true for our actual systems. So under that scenario, we will be once again finding that out of the extreme cone of these rays, these will be subtending some angle over here. That particular angle is called as nothing but differential solid angle. Okay, so this is our solid angle. Now once these rays will be falling on the part of the sphere, so these will be occupying nothing but a planar area. So in 2D case, we were having some arc, here we will be having some area. Okay, so this we are considering as area of the face, which is normal to the direction of ray. So if I say that this is my ray, so to this ray we are having this as normal direction, and this normal area I am considering as DAN. And this is my radius of the sphere, so I can call this angle, solid angle, as nothing but equal to dA divided by r square. Okay, now let us consider that we have some surface over here. Okay, and this surface is having area dA1. So now when this surface will be emitting the radiations, and if we consider that there is some point on the surface, and corresponding to that, if we try to make some angle, solid angle, so we will be finding this is our solid angle d omega. Okay, and this n vector over here represents the unit normal vector to this surface dA1, which is actually emitting the radiations. Okay, and as I told you in the earlier cases that radiation is a surface phenomenon, and from the surface we will experience that radiations are actually coming out in all the directions. So that's why we have this kind of hemispherical arrangement in which our radiations are coming out. So that's why whenever we will be talking about the radiative mode of heat transfer, we will always consider our system in nothing but spherical coordinate system. Okay, so when we analyze our radiative mode of heat transfer, we consider spherical coordinate system. So a depiction of spherical coordinate system is given over here. So for example, if this is the location of observer, so observer is having radius r, then azimuthal angle theta, and this circumferential angle phi over here. Okay, and these vertices of this point are r, theta, and phi. Okay, so this is a typical representation where we have some surface, and from this surface we are considering that radiations are emitting, and these are falling on some area dAn. So for this situation, I can simply write that solid angle will be nearly equal to dAn divided by r square. And majorly when we will be talking about the radiative mode of heat transfer, we will be dealing in the spherical coordinate system, because radiations are emitting in all the directions. Okay, now let us try to little bit elaborate more on the definition of the solid angle. So over here what I have done, I have presented this three-dimensional arrangement. So for example, you can see this boundary over here represents nothing but some portion of a sphere, okay, some sector of a sphere, and this is the surface having normal vector like this, and this surface is actually emitting some radiations, and while these radiations are falling on the area, this is actually our dAn normal area, which is part of the periphery of the sphere. Okay, so now let us consider this is angle theta, and this angle over here in between as d theta. Okay, and this angle is as our d phi. Now if this is the radius of this point is r, so I can say that this coordinate will be actually nothing but my r sine theta. Now this portion is actually with some different orientation is shown over here. So now this entire angle whatever we will be having between these rays, that angle we will be calling as nothing but our d omega, our solid angle. Now definition of solid angle says that it is nothing but normal area divided by r square. Now this normal area what we are getting over here on which the radiations are falling, this is nothing but a part of the sphere. So if you see this dimension is, if this angle is d theta and this radius is r, so this dimension will be equal to r d theta, and as this is my r sine theta, and this angle over here which we have considered is d phi, so that's why this dimension will be r sine theta into d phi. So under this condition I can say that area, normal area will be equal to this side multiplied by this side. Okay, so it will become r into r as r square sine theta d theta into d phi. So I can define my solid angle which is equal to dAn by r square equal to this will be equal to r square into sine theta d phi divided by r square. So I can say my differential solid angle d omega will be equal to nothing but sine theta d theta and d phi. Now this, why we are calling this as differential angle, because we are only considering the radiations in some small segment. Now if we consider all the radiation, so if I consider that this dA1 is nothing but a opaque surface, this is a opaque surface. So if this is a opaque surface, this surface will emit radiations in all the directions and over the entire periphery of the hemisphere. So if I have to find out the solid angle for this entire opaque surface, then I can define that angle as nothing but hemispherical solid angle. And hemispherical solid angle, if I have to calculate, I can give this as symbol omega, and this I can find by integrating my angle d omega. So if I have to do the integration, so d omega is nothing but equal to sine theta into d theta d phi. Now this was for the elemental sector. Now if I have to go for entire hemisphere, can you tell me what will be the limits of integration?
Theta 0 to 180 and phi 0 to 360.
Theta 0 to
180.
will it be 180 or will it be 90? Because this direction we are taking complete. If I take phi from 0 to 2 pi, okay, so phi I am taking complete. So for that case, theta I am actually considering only in this direction. In other direction, I will be having theta like this. So the range of theta will be 0 to pi by 2. Is it correct?
We are considering 1/4 only, 1/4 part of sphere.
Yes. No,
Okay.
1/4 we are considering only for this sector. Whenever we will be making a complete sphere, if this 1/4 section of the sphere I rotate for entire 360 degree, I will be getting a full hemisphere. Okay. So that's why my range of theta will be from 0 to pi by 2 and range of phi will be from 0 to 2 pi. Correct?
Okay.
Okay, so now can you tell me after integration what I will be getting? So first, there is no dependence of phi. So if I integrate, 2 pi will come as it is, and then I'll be having become 1. So my hemispherical solid angle has become nothing but equal to 2 pi. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, so till now what we have done, geometrically we have seen that if radiations are emitting from a surface, what will be the like spectrum, or I should say the range of direction in which actually these radiations will be coming out, and corresponding to that we have defined one geometrical parameter as solid angle. Now if we have to quantify that how much energy these radiations have carried, so for that we have to define some important quantity which is called as radiation intensity. So till now we have seen that when radiations are coming out, how much will be their spectrum in theta and phi direction. Okay, but if you have to find out the energy associated with that particular spectrum, we have to determine something which is called as intensity of the radiation. So to define the intensity of the radiation, what I have done, I have once again considered the same opaque surface of surface area dA1. Okay, and we are considering that from this radiations are moving in this direction, and here I have just placed some observer. The idea of placing the observer is we want to find out the projection of this area in the direction normal to that of the radiation. Okay, so this will be my projected area over here. And if this angle is theta, projected area will simply become dA1 cos theta. Okay, so now what is the actually role of this radiation intensity? So the role of radiation intensity is, if this say is some ray which is emitting from this surface in this particular direction. So we will be saying that if this ray is moving with wavelength lambda and having some specific direction theta comma phi, then how much intensity this ray is actually carrying. So for that we are defining this I am considering as nothing but my radiation intensity. Okay, so I is radiation intensity, and this I am defining corresponding to some wavelength lambda. I am considering that this ray is moving with wavelength lambda and this is actually emitting from the surface. Now this radiation intensity, as I told you that radiation is a spectral and directional dependent parameter, so this will be function of nothing but lambda comma theta comma phi. Okay, now what will be this functional relationship and how to obtain this functional relationship, that is something which we will study later. But over here we will try to define some relationship that if we know I, how this I is related to the amount of heat transfer. Okay, so for that purpose, let me consider that when this ray is moving out with wavelength lambda, say it is carrying some heat dq. Okay, and while this ray is moving out at wavelength lambda, it is having small spectrum of wavelengths or wavelength interval d lambda about this lambda. Okay, and the total amount of heat which is going out is something which is dq. So dq is total radiation heat emission from the surface. Okay, so now if I have these quantities and I can define intensity lambda of this emitting ray, which is a function of lambda, theta and phi, equal to dq, which is the total amount of radiative heat emission from the surface, divided by surface area of this particular emitting surface, which is normal to the direction of radiation emission. So this is our total surface area and this is the direction of radiation emission. So normal projected area is dA1 cos theta. So dA1 cos theta divided by solid angle associated with transmission of this ray. Let us consider d omega is solid angle associated with this transmission, and here we have to also divide it by the interval of small interval of wavelength about this main peak lambda at which actually our ray is moving out. So this is something which is actually our fundamental definition of the radiation intensity. So let me repeat once again. Radiation intensity is a parameter which will be finally helping us in calculating the total amount of heat transfer. What will be its functional form, that is something which we will study subsequently. At the moment I am just considering that if, let us assume that you are knowing this value. So if you have to define this value with the total amount of radiation heat transfer which is taking place associated with this particular ray, and what are the other geometric parameters involved, we can define radiation intensity as nothing but equal to total radiation heat emission from a surface divided by the area of the surface, which is normal, or projected area of surface which is normal to the direction at which ray is moving out, okay, divided by solid angle and divided by some small interval of wavelength, which is actually around the length. This is definition of it. So any question over here? Can you mute your microphone if you don't want to ask anything? Okay, anyone is having any confusion till this point? Shall I continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now this is how we can define the radiation intensity. Now this radiation over here, what we are having, this is our total radiative heat emission. Now if I divide this dq by d lambda, that will become nothing but my dq lambda. Okay, so when I was considering the dq, it was considering all the radiations within the range of lambda plus minus d lambda, means some small interval about lambda we were having. Now if I just divide with this d lambda, I will be finding only the heat associated with specifically with a single wavelength lambda. So this type of heat is called as spectral emissive power. Okay, so this was total emissive power. When we divided this with d lambda, we will be having transfer of heat associated with a single wavelength, and this is called as spectral emissive power. Okay, now if I divide this dq lambda by area dA1, so we know that amount of heat transfer per unit area is nothing but our heat flux. So I can call this as dq double dash lambda, where q, this double dash symbol I am using for heat flux. So this will become my spectral heat flux from the surface. Okay, so now if I substitute these two definitions into my equation number 1, I will be finding from here that I lambda e as function of lambda, theta and phi will be equal to dq by dA1. First dq by d lambda has become dq lambda, and dq lambda by dA1 has become dq lambda double dash. So simply I can write this as dq double dash lambda divided by cos theta into d omega. Okay, so from here I can say that my spectral heat flux through this differential surface dA1 dq lambda dash will be equal to nothing but I lambda e as function of lambda theta phi times cos theta into d omega. Now the definition of d omega we have already seen. D omega is nothing but our sin theta d phi. So if I substitute this definition, I will be finding dq double dash lambda as nothing but equal to I lambda e lambda theta phi into cos theta sin theta d theta and d phi. Okay, so this is through this elemental surface, and in this elemental surface also only we are considering at the moment a solid angle, a differential solid angle. Now if I have to consider the entire heat flux through the surface E lambda, that will be nothing but integration of dq double dash lambda. Okay, so if I do this integration, I have to integrate over the entire solid angle. So one limit I will be considering 0 to pi by 2, and another limit I will be considering 0 to 2 pi, and I will be having I lambda e lambda theta phi and cos theta sin theta and d theta d phi. Okay, is this point clear? So till now we were considering only the when we were considering dq double dash lambda, we were considering only through solid angle d omega. But if we consider through entire solid angle, so in that case, I have to do integration from 0 to 2 pi and 0 to pi by 2. Okay, so till this point, it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is something which is nothing but our spectral emissive flux. Why spectral emissive flux? Because here I have actually considered corresponding to a single wavelength. If I have to consider the total, if I have to include wavelength also, in that case I have to do integration of this intensity also, and my wavelength may vary from 0 to infinity. Say if I am considering the spectrum of all the wavelengths. Okay, so 0 to infinity, then 0 to 2 pi, 0 to pi by 2, and then I lambda e lambda theta phi cos theta sin theta d theta d phi. Okay, so this is my, now I can remove this word spectral, and this I can call as nothing but my total emissive power. Okay, so or total emissive flux, which will be from this elemental surface dA1. Okay, now one important thing, when we do this integration from 0 to 2 pi and 0 to pi by 2, because we are considering the entire hemispherical portion, so many times this is also called as spectral hemispherical emissive flux or total hemispherical emissive flux. Okay, so when we are not using word hemispherical, it means we are talking about elemental solid angle, and when we are using the word hemispherical, then we are considering the total sphere. But majority of the time, because radiation takes place in a hemispherical way only, so this word hemispherical appears to be redundant, and mainly we write this as total emissive flux. Okay, so now in this particular discussion, we have come to know that if we know the intensity of the radiation, how that intensity is associated with the total amount of energy which is leaving out of the surface. But for knowing that intensity, what we have to do, we should have the knowledge of this functional form. Okay, unless or until we are having the knowledge of this functional form, we will not be able to determine the amount of energy associated. Okay, so now estimation of this entire functional form is very, very complex. So sometimes we take the assumption of, we take this assumption of diffuse surface. Okay, so what is the meaning of diffuse surface? The meaning of diffuse surface is that we have some characteristics of the surface that radiations emitted in all the directions is having uniform intensity. So if we have uniform intensity of radiations emitting in all the directions for a particular surface, that type of surface is called as diffuse surface. Okay, so for a diffuse surface, we will be finding that I lambda e will be nothing but a sole function of lambda. Okay, so here dependence of theta and phi will actually diminish. So if we have a situation where our intensity of the radiation is not depending on, actually is not depending on this direction theta and phi, and it's a sole function of the wavelength, that particular type of surface is something which is called as a diffuse surface. And for that scenario, my E lambda will become, so now you can see in the previous slide, I was having this as variable. So if I consider this to be known parameter, and I am doing over here integration only along the angle, so I can take out this I lambda E as function of lambda outside, and I inside I will be finding integration from 0 to 2 pi, integration from 0 to pi by 2, cos theta, sin theta, d theta, and d phi. Okay, so now can you do this integration and tell me what I'll be getting? Can you integrate and tell me what I'll be getting out of this? Please tell me what I'll be getting. I'll be finding I lambda E as function of lambda. If I integrate over phi, I will be getting 2 pi. And if I just now I'll be having integration from 0 to pi by 2 cos theta sin theta d theta. If I multiply by 2 and divide by 2, I will be getting inside as sin 2 theta d theta. Okay, so can you tell me what final expression, what I'll be getting finally out of this sin 2 theta d theta? Are you doing integration?
Yes, sir.
Please tell me what I'll be getting finally.
1 5 times
1. So simply I'll be getting E lambda equal to I lambda E lambda and pi. Okay. Similarly, if I consider that for total radiations, my integration over wavelength gives some overall quantity as I, say IE. So IE, if I consider the total radiation intensity. Okay, so total radiation intensity means which is considering the integration over all the wavelengths. So under that scenario, I will get total emissive power. I will get total emissive power as E equal to IE times pi. Okay, so what I am doing basically, this integration of wavelength, I am considering altogether a quantity IE, and then this integration over angles will result in nothing but multiplier pi. So I can write my total emissive power as nothing but IE into pi, where IE includes the total radiation intensity over entire spectrum of wavelength. Fine. Is it fine till this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now the way we have this radiation which is actually going out of a surface, similarly we will be having some intensity associated with the radiations which are actually being incident on a surface. So here we have this situation where there is some incident radiation, so which is coming from another surface, and this is falling on a surface. So here also we have this similar depiction of solid angle, and this type of incident radiation is called as nothing but irradiation. Why this irradiation is important? Because when we have to estimate the total amount of heat transfer, we have to also consider how much fraction of this incident radiation is absorbed by the surface and how much is reflected by the surface. Okay, so because of this, what will be happening, we have to also quantify this flux of irradiation. Okay, so for defining the irradiation intensity, we use symbol I lambda, and with lambda earlier I was writing E, where E was showing that the radiation is emitted from the surface. Over here radiation is incident over the surface, so I will be using symbol I. And once again it will be function of lambda, theta and phi, and corresponding to this we have to find out the how much irradiation flux is associated. So irradiation flux is actually given by symbol G. So G over here referred to as irradiation flux. So the meaning of irradiation is from the surrounding surface radiations are actually incident on a surface. So similarly, the way we have used radiation intensity, definition of irradiation intensity is also identical. So I can say that irradiation intensity I lambda I lambda theta phi will be equal to D. Say I am calling this as small g, which is the amount of irradiation heat transfer divided by dA1 cos theta into, because these are incident on this surface, So we are talking about this surface only. So that's why area will remain dA1 cos theta. Solid angle is also d omega, and say d lambda is wavelength. So if we use the similar formulation, I can say that g lambda will be nothing but equal to integral from 0 to pi by 2, 0 to 2 pi, and here what I will get? Can you tell me? Can you tell me? I lambda I as function of lambda theta phi into cos theta sin theta d theta and d phi. And if you have to calculate total irradiation flux, that will be integration from 0 to infinity, integration from 0 to pi, integration from 0 to pi by 2, I lambda I and lambda theta phi into cos theta sin theta and d theta d phi. Fine. Similarly, we have one more important parameter which is called as radiosity. Okay, so what is the definition of radiosity? Let us see over here. So this ray over here shows the radiation which is emitted by this surface. Now this ray shows irradiation on the surface. Now out of this irradiation, some amount will be absorbed by surface, some amount will be transmitted by surface, and some amount will be reflected by the surface. Now the portion which is reflected by the surface is actually also kind of contributing in total amount of energy which is coming out of the surface. So that's why the total amount of energy, which is nothing but the sum of radiations emitted from the surface plus the portion of irradiation which is actually reflected from the surface. So that all together makes the total energy which is coming out of the or being radiated out of the surface. So that sum altogether is called as radiosity. So the way we defined this irradiation intensity and intensity of the emitted radiation, similarly we can define intensity for the radiosity also. So for radiosity we will be defining I lambda, and here I will be writing emitted plus reflected. Okay, so this will be lambda, theta and phi. So radiosity is something which is given by symbol J. Okay, so J is the symbol used for radiosity. So I can, if I know this intensity, I can write J lambda equal to integration 0 to 2 pi, 0 to pi by 2, I lambda emitted plus reflected. So a portion of irradiation which is reflected is actually considered as total amount of energy going out of the surface, which is considered as irradiation. Okay, function of lambda theta phi multiplied by cos theta sin theta d theta and d phi. So this is the spectral radiosity, and if we have to find out total radiosity J, that will be integration 0 to infinity, integration 0 to 2 pi, integration 0 to pi by 2, I lambda e plus r lambda theta phi and cos theta sin theta d theta and d phi. Okay, so this is the total amount of radiosity which we have actually associated. Now we have the concept of black body radiations, but this particular concept now I will take up in the next lecture. Okay, so now you can discuss your queries, and we can also discuss about the schedule for the next lecture.